Hey guys, it's time for another What the Hell Happened in OCR this month, January 2026. We're still like in the middle of winter, so not much is going on, but there's two main news stories that happened in January that I did want to, talk about a little bit. And the first one, you've probably already heard it, came out early in January, and I even touched on it a little bit last month, but that is Savage Race and how they are consolidating their 2026 race schedule from 13 events that were initially scheduled and kind of what we've been used to over the last few years with them down to just 3. So it hurts pretty bad with with a lot of us in the U.S. market when it comes to like this race brand that we've all loved over the years, especially those of us that like in the Northeast where they had some great events lined up in the past and they're completely cutting back. Right now, the 3 events that they have are just going to be 2 in Florida and 1 in Georgia. So it hits us pretty hard. The reasoning behind it, they're saying that they want to focus our resources on delivering the strongest possible events and treating our athletes responsibly. I'll also say that Sam Abbott came out, put out a statement and some words kind of saying how, their plan right now is the 3 events and they plan to continue these 3 events going forward. They might add some additional races in the future, but right now nothing's like official. There were some rumors like that first day the news came out that like they're going to be shutting down. That was completely false, and Sam came out and, put an end to that. But we'll see what happens in the future. For now, there's just going to be 3 events for 2026. And for those people that were already signed up for events that are now canceled, Savage Race is giving them like 3 options. You can transfer to a Spartan race, a Tough Mudder, get a full refund, or transfer to one of the 3 races that they're still putting on. We'll see how this year goes with the 3 events that they have and see what the turnout is and what their response is towards how it goes and what their plans are for 2027. Hopefully, we see them continue, maybe even add a few more into the future. But right now, if you're down that way or you can get to a race, like go for it, because you never know what's going to happen. Since January is like a pretty light month, and probably the biggest news of the month is about the Savage Race and their consolidation, I thought let's take a look back on where Savage Race came from and how their events and numbers have looked over the last 15 years is really how long it's been. So going all the way back to 2011 is when Savage Race started, and they put on 1 single event. Following year, 2012, they put on 2 events. And then in 2013, they started blasting off, put on 8 events. 2014, 10 events. We probably would call 2015 and 2016 like the peaking years for Savage Race, where they brought in, 36 to 37,000 finishers in 2015 and 2016. I don't know how many events there were, 10 to 12, 13 maybe. 2017 and 18 and even 19. 2017, 18, and 19, they're bringing in close to 40,000 finishers. So I kind of called 15, 16 those peaking years. 17, 18, 19, they had more finishers. However, they had a few more events. I think they got up to like 15 or 16 events at one point, but it's just that the average participation per event was a little bit lower, even though they were reaching, about 40,000 finishers per year. And then, of course, 2020 came, and we know how that went. Despite all the issues with COVID in 2020, they were still able to push out like 6 events that year. So they didn't fully, go away, but they were able to push out, almost half of what they planned for. So 6 events in 2020. Then we have 2021 through 2024. A few years there where they're starting to come back. They're putting on a consistent 12 to 14 type events per year, but not racking up numbers anywhere close to those 15, 16, 17 levels. It was actually dwindling down a little bit between 21 and 24. Then we see 2025, which was last year, and they put out there, I believe, 13 events and had just over 22,000 total finishers for the year, which in comparison to 15, 16 looks pretty bad. But it was a big increase from what they were kind of experiencing for a few years before that. And then, of course, that leads us to 2026, and they're consolidating down to 3 total events. So now Savage Race is kind of back to square one. Like 2012, when they had 2 events, that was 14 years ago, and now they're at 3 events for the year. We'll see what happens going forward. I hope they have some pretty positive numbers this year, and they just continue on with at least 3, hopefully add a few more in the future. But what do you guys think will happen? If you have any comments about it, throw them down below. All right, and the one other newsworthy item that we kind of saw in January has to do with like some federation news, shaking up the international scene a little bit. If you're into the competitive side of OCR, you've probably heard about this like World Obstacle, FISO, UIPM merger that's going on. There's been some talks about it over the last at least a year, I believe. But coming out in January, they actually started putting out some like more official statements about what's going to happen. And the latest statement kind of confirmed that World Obstacle was going to merge into UIPM. If you have no idea what these federations are or how they work, you're not alone. I am not an expert on this stuff at all, but I'll give a little bit of background on how I view it and what they're all about. I guess we have World Obstacle, some people call it FISO also. Started 10 or 12 years ago. It's kind of like a global governing body for obstacle course racing, covering like traditional OCR, think about your Spartan Tough Mudder style races, and even some Ninja Warrior stuff, with a focus on trying to standardize rules, hosting some world championships, and growing the sport internationally through federations and kind of promoting accessibility like at all levels and age groups. The last time you might have heard about them was with OCR World Championships in Sweden last year. There was some great solid competition that went out there, and I talked to a few people who were there. It sounded like it was a great event. A lot of positive feedback from what I heard. They will be putting on one more event on their own this year, and that'll be in Limerick, Ireland, later in the summer. So if you want to check that out, go for it, because I don't exactly know what it'll look like, in future years. As for UIPM, that's the International Modern Pentathlon Organization. It's been around since 1948, it looks like. And in the past, they focus on like modern pentathlon in the Olympics. So think fencing, swimming, equestrian, shooting, running, and now obstacle racing. The big pivot from them came like in 2021 when they decided to remove the horse riding after, I believe, some controversy went down, and replace it with obstacle racing. So UIPM's focus is like real heavy when it comes to the Olympic side of the sport, and they're all about like global development with confederations across continents and positioning obstacle as a core discipline. So why the merger? Overall, I think it's like a strategic unification between the two. if the purpose of obstacle racing is to like go towards the Olympic side of things. World Obstacle has like the grassroots OCR expertise and community, and UIPM has the Olympic credentials, resources, funding options. Integrating the two, it avoids some duplication with different organizations that are involved in that Olympic push. It can also like boost growth from both sides, give more visibility, and better options for funding, a cleaner pathway to the elite pentathlon scene. What does it really mean for us? I think UIPM is going to like start governing obstacle sports worldwide, potentially streamlining the process of competitions, opening more doors for athletes who want to chase that Olympic dream for the sport. Some people are into this, some people don't care, some people don't like it. It just sort of depends how you view our sport of obstacle course racing. Toss in a comment, let me know what your thoughts are on it. If you're excited about obstacle racing, heading towards the Olympics, or if you prefer to stick with the old school ruggedness and unknowing of OCR that we've kind of been accustomed to and have seen in the past. So those are the two like big newsworthy items that I wanted to touch on. Beyond that, there's a few races that did go off. One in Lake Perris, California, where a few of the OCR legends did show up. We saw Anthony Kunkel and Mark Batris and Natalie Miano just out there getting some gold medals. Spartan Race Dubai also went off in January, and some OCR legends, Sergey Paraligan and Alyssa Petrova, showed up and pulled out a win. Not a big surprise. Quick shout out also, I'll mention Abominable Racing. They are like a smaller OCR event that goes off, I think, like every January, and they've been around for a while. I've always known of them as like the snowy OCR race in the US, just because every time I see their pictures from their events, there's just snow all over the place, and there was plenty of it this year for sure. So that went off like January 31st, I believe it was. So shout out to them. They're out in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. If you're ever out that way, want to get to an OCR event in the snow. So that's all I had for January news. I might have another video coming out in like early next week. A fun topic that we all like to talk about. So stay tuned for that one. Hit the like button, subscribe, toss in some comments, whatever, help the algorithm. If there's any topics that you think might be like worthy of a YouTube video, send them my way. And besides that, I will be taking part in my first OCR race of the year in like 2 weeks. Spartan Race Jacksonville, down in Florida, end of February. I'll be down there, flying in on like Thursday, staying until Sunday. I'll be taking part in the Saturday and Sunday races, probably running age group. And if you're out there, let me know and say hey. Until next time, guys.